First off, I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Sadiq. I've been with the Department of Athletics since 2006 as a student and remained in the department until graduating, and I continued finding opportunities within the department. And so, it's still home, and hopefully it always is home. Today, my guest is, what's your name?
Jacky Beckford-Henriques. I am the head varsity swim coach, both women's and men's swimming at the University of Waterloo, and this is my 4th year here.
Jamaica, your country. What is your hometown?
I'm from Kingston,
Okay.
Jamaica, and I now think of myself as having 2 hometowns. Kingston, Jamaica, and Waterloo, Ontario.
Okay. And I'm not going to put you on spot and ask you which one you like more. Clearly, they both have something to offer, which is why you have 2 hometowns and not 1, correct?
Yeah, and that's it. There's pluses and minuses of both of them. And I love living in Canada, but I do like going home because I spent the majority of my life there.
Yes.
But I totally appreciate my life here as well.
Absolutely. So I know I have Jamaica in my bucket list, and I'm quite certain I'm not the only one. What is something that you can tell somebody who still hasn't been? What's something that we probably wouldn't know on our own unless we were told, and then when we get there, we'd find it and be really excited about it?
Well, I don't know if you'd find it.
You're not going to be there?
If you're going to Jamaica, you have to talk to me first. But it's not just beaches. We have mountains, and when I say mountains, they're not like huge high mountains, but we have very pretty countryside. Mm-hmm. So you can go up in the hills and see some of life up there, and you can also be on the beaches, depending on which one you like. And our culture is, our food, the different types of food, our music is so well known. You can go to a sporting event. Mm-hmm. Our track and field high school championships is the biggest high school championship in the world for a little island that is a dot on the map.
Absolutely.
So, those are some of the things.
So, speaking of reggae artists, I think I will go visit the mountains. And if Sizzla happens to be there that day, I'll be very happy. He's always got mountains on his CD covers or his videos and stuff like that. So.
Okay, fun fact, Sean Paul swam with me.
Sean Paul's what?
Was a swimmer.
Sean Paul?
Yeah. And I coached him at a swim, his first junior championships. I was the national coach.
That's amazing. And so I wonder if he swam when he was in Brampton then, or is it one of those things where opportunity didn't really exist?
He just swam through high school. He pretty much gave up swimming. His dad and mom were actually swimmers as well. There's
a former athlete who's still a student with us as well. He was also a swimmer, and I think he said he was also a sprinter in Jamaica. I won't say his name, but he's in the department with us, and he's very tall. So it seems like a lot of great athletes do come out of the programs that you guys have in place over there, and it shows in the Olympics, right?
Yeah, definitely. And you
need an ice rink. That's all you need. I'm waiting for you guys to get an ice rink, and then let's see what happens. I'm not sure if you want to talk about academic year and program because I feel like that chapter of our lives is over. But you're more than welcome to talk to us about your experience being a student. I know in just some of our conversations, it wasn't just Jamaica. You also, I believe, were in the States and you studied elsewhere too.
Yeah, and maybe this brings us back to, what we're highlighting this month. Mm-hmm. Growing up in Jamaica with an English mother and a Jamaican father, and I'm going to kind of diverge here because it has really been brought back to me this year what my parents went through.
Yes.
And me being brought up in Jamaica, that was very sheltered sort of life when it came to racial issues. And I say sheltered, not that I didn't know things weren't happening out there. But my mother got married to my father in England in 1950. Her father didn't go to the wedding because of her marrying a black man. They went through all sorts of things like apartments not being rented. She would go and they would say it was available. And when Dad got there, it was not.
Not available.
They stayed in England for 10 years and made a decision not to have children there because of that. So I was born in Jamaica. I went to university in England, and that was my first sort of real worldly experience of coming to the terms of being Black. I then went to University of Michigan, and that was even more so, where friends felt I had to take sides on who I socialized with. I was going to socialize within the Black community, or I was going to socialize within the white community. And I took my stand there. No, I am not doing that. I am friends with who I wish to be friends with, no matter what the color of their skin. So all of this is sort of, then I come to Canada, because I went back to Jamaica for many, many years. And then I come to Canada, and my son moves here. I get married, and I have 3 sons now, and have learned so much as conversations have gone on in this last year about our sons and what they are going through living in this society, which I'm kind of jumping off your question, but
no.
But then it brings me to, why am I doing what I am doing now?
Yes.
And it's for them. And down the road is when change will happen. And I know you and me had a conversation on this.
That's Wednesday.
I have to give credit to my friend Lanai Carroll Woolery, who's the president of the CAR, because he summed it all up for me. This is like a 4x100 race. And we are on the 3rd leg, because it takes over 100 years for change to actually happen. So the first change was abolition of slavery. Then I think it was Jim Crow next. And we are now on another phase. But we might not see all of the changes, but we have to do the work now.
Yeah, absolutely. I know when we had that conversation, I really was in a rut, right? You know, here you are involved in work that's supposed to advance society and, you know, equality. And then over a weekend, you experience it at 2 different times in 2 different cities, and it was just so blatant. But then, you know, when we talked on Wednesday, and you said to me, the work we're doing now, we're not going to see the benefit of it. And hearing that hard truth was important. But also, what's more important is how we're living today, because people who did the work back then didn't have what we have today. So they also didn't see the benefit, and the people before them didn't see it either. And so each generation or each time period, there's more work that's done, and that group might not see it, but it's for the progressive group that's coming ahead of them to basically reap the benefits and build on it some more. But that took me till Thursday afternoon. I was still upset from Wednesday. And, you know, and these things do take time. When you experience something like that, somebody can sit down and coach you and talk to you and it just takes time for you to make sense of it, right? And whereas, you know, when it's a physical pain, or if you fall or something happens to you, you know exactly why it happened, and you know exactly how long it's going to take to get better. And that's if it already hasn't gotten better. But when someone does a racist act to you, it affects your whole day. It affects your next day, your progress in whatever it is you were trying to do. It just doesn't matter. And you really do need somebody to get you out of a rut. And, you know, not advertising you, Jacky, but guys, if you need somebody to talk to. And the other thing too is, just because somebody has talked to you doesn't mean it's all going to be okay today. Like I said, for me, it took time to process what was said, look back at all the work that has actually been happening, even since '94, since I came to Canada. And then I was able to appreciate the conversation even more. and yeah, was able to move on from those incidents. So.
And, that's what it's about. And I think also what has come to us in this last year is there are things that have been subconscious that we aren't even aware of, certainly for me, of how I acted in an environment because of how I had been sort of socialized and the whole systemic racism, and I'm expected to behave in this particular manner.
Mm-hmm.
In conversations in this last year with some of my younger people, athletes that I have dealt with, this has really come through.
That's good. And you know what? I think something we also mentioned in our previous conversation was your athletes and how they approach the topic now, or how they might approach it later in life when, they finish school, their careers and their professions, and let's say they're in managerial positions, how they might interact with somebody of color, having gone through University of Waterloo and being exposed to the Alliance and having you as a coach, right? And I truly believe this is one of the reasons why it's important to have leaders of color, because it shows that, yes, this person can lead. And so later in life, if another person of color is up for an interview, you're not just going to discredit him because of their color. I think it's very important that we stay visible. And it's very important that it's recognized too. Your experience at UW so far?
My experience at UW, as a coach, has been, this last year has been interesting. And I'm trying to think how, it has certainly exposed me to a lot more of UW. Mm-hmm. I do have an advantage in that my husband works at UW as well. And when I say an advantage, I hear about other sides outside of athletics.
Yeah.
So I am aware, because sometimes we get caught in our bubble.
Yeah, we do.
And I know in my previous job in Canada, I was caught in my swimming bubble and never really got to know anybody else. And in fact, that's one of the good things of COVID and of all of what has happened. I've got to know so many more people. Mm-hmm. But I would say that I feel that we need to have more people from the BIPOC community in our department, in our schools, in places, in points of leadership. And yes, maybe in the student population, but I'm not in the student population. So if we have leadership that is, there's a certain comfort zone. I have a comfort zone talking to you.
Yeah.
Because I think I can have an understanding of what you go through, and you have an understanding of what I go through. So I would think that is something that is lacking, and I think this whole year will bring that forth. I can't say that I have personally had an incident that I took as a racist incident, but then I'm also dealing with things. I'm a woman, and we are also not represented at the coaching level. There's 3 of us. I think it's 3. So you're never quite sure what angle is hitting you. Is it because I'm a woman, or is it because I am of color?
And so, you've got the double X's, not to give it a name or anything, but I think it's been studied, and it is shown that it's the Black woman in a corporation who does not go up the highest regardless of her credentials. That glass ceiling for her is extra hard to break.
Yeah, and it's, coming to Canada at the start, it was quite rough because I came with tremendous knowledge. I came having done quite a bit in my coaching career. And it was very, I don't know if humbling is the right word, but, it's like you're starting at the bottom again.
It was all dismissed as if, yes, we know you got this, but this is how it's done here.
Or people just didn't know I had done this.
Okay.
And that's where the color side comes in, because they look at this Black woman and say, oh,
could have done this. So you had a bunch of little 8-year-old girls like I did, but there was a bunch of little 8-year-old girls judging you and saying there's no way you could have done that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And really, I have seen, as I've had the opportunity, because I'm a head coach at the University of Waterloo, to prove myself.
Yeah.
And the recognition I get now, and this is what, 4 years I've been here, 7 years in total in Canada.
Yeah.
But I coached for 25 years in Jamaica before this. And now I am just reaching the point where I see the respect for me in my area of work. And this is not University of Waterloo now, we're talking about outside in the community.
I think something you didn't touch on is my experience with you being at University of Waterloo during our potlucks. The jerk chicken, man. Oh man. I only made them once and I'm still waiting. I almost want to give up my turn when it's our turn to do potluck, and then you can just substitute yourself in and I'll go get the ingredients. That went fast. I remember I'm looking around, I was like, everyone has some on their plate? Perfect. I'm getting some more. So they should definitely know you can cook well. You definitely can. I'll give you that.
No, Sadiq, I chose the one thing I do well. That's, I cook because I have to, but of course, I'm doing potluck for the whole staff, and I was really nervous about it, so I choose the one thing that I know I can do well.
Honestly, why test out something that you don't know will turn out well when you know everybody will enjoy this, right? You get so much gratitude when you make food and you see people eating it and they're enjoying it. I don't know about you, but when I do, I get a lot of gratitude from that. And I hope that they would just get up and wash the dishes because I don't get gratitude from that part.
No, I mean, but the thing with it also is I still have that feeling of representing Jamaican culture.
Yes.
And yep. I have to do that well.
That's why I brought my eggplant salad. I was just like, you know what, there's a bunch of stuff I can do, a bunch of stews and whatnot. I'm going to bring my eggplant salad. And for us, we're not vegetarians, but we also don't eat meat every day. You weren't raised that way. And even coming here, I cannot eat meat every day. And so we have a bunch of vegetarian dishes where you're still able to get your nutrients that you need. Obviously, you're going to have to use a bunch of different vegetables and legumes and stuff like that. But I had to represent too. So I brought something that when my mom was cooking it as a kid, I would always be in the kitchen because it's one of those dishes that you got to cook things separately. And so I'm in there just pretending to help, but I'm really just picking here, picking there. And
but yes, it's good as well because I tried it. So, and this is, that's even coming back to our BIPOC communities.
Yes.
There's so much that you can learn. There's so much if you're willing to open your mind.
Absolutely.
That's also another thing. Be willing to open your mind. And that's a message that I would give to everybody. I know one of the last questions is, what would you say going forward? And that's be willing to open your mind.
I learned that very early when we were traveling through South Sudan, my stepfather and I. We would go visit different village chiefs, and they were getting ready there was a civil war going on. And anyway, so we're traveling, and everywhere we went, the village that we went to, they would have, in the evenings, they would have a ceremony, and everybody's ceremony was somewhat the same, but a little different, right? And I remember one of my favorite ones, I don't even know this group's name, but they had like this huge fire, and all night they were playing drums. And there was just food being cooked over a fire over here, a fire over there. And if you can't tell, I love to eat. That's, thank God I'm 6'3", because yeah, I love to eat. And even within South Sudan, there was just so much diversity amongst the people, right? And you can tell a people's culture. One of the ways you can tell people's culture is what they eat, and just the different foods everywhere we went. Like, it's the same ingredients, but just the way they made it or prepped it beforehand or served it, there was just something different enough to make it a different dish. And I definitely miss that part. And I think it's also another point to raise is about our diversity. I know you talked about it earlier with DA. I think he said he's from the States. I hope I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
Saudi-born Sudanese, and you're Jamaican. But again, even when I was going through South Sudan, just seeing the diversity amongst the people over there. And so I learned very early to always try something. Don't be afraid if it looks new or different or you don't know what it is, right? I learned that very early. And then I think when we came to Canada, though, my stepfather realized, I was somewhat too trusting. And I think he caught somebody doing an overt racist act towards me, but I didn't put one and one together. And so he basically asked me, do you know the history of this land? I said, no, I know the history of Sudan. I know the history of Ghana. I know all of our African heroes and all of this. And he's like, okay, well, we're going to the library. And back then you can get cassettes, video cassettes. It was 94. This guy got a whole set of movies. I was so excited, We never get to watch movies like this. We'd go to the library and get books. Anyway, so come home. He's putting on Roots. Oh, man, Jacky. You try to run away the second time? Oh, I was crying. When Kunta tried to get away that second time, I'm not going to say what happened over here. I hope you remember, Whew. And so I think when I grew up, I told my stepfather, maybe you could have been a little more sensitive with this stuff. But it had me questioning everything. So now I'm in the classroom and we have, it was English class. And I think this was grade 5, so I could speak English a little better now. And the teacher was talking about when the Europeans, especially the British, were leaving Europe. She didn't use the word conquest at all. And so she said, the Europeans, the king was tired of eating food that was just spiced with salt and black pepper. And so he wanted to travel the world. He wanted people to travel the world to find different ways of making his food taste better. I'm looking at her like, are you kidding me? They came across Kunta Kinte, who was out in West Africa minding his own business and was thrown on a boat because the king wanted spices. And I was just like, anyways, I'm rambling on and on. But yeah, that was the mind.
And that's the difference. I didn't learn history like that.
Yeah.
I learned it from our perspective of this was an economic slave trade and all of that sort of thing. So then my mindset coming here is different again. Mm-hmm. Because that's how I was educated. And to come back to your whole diversity, we have people who their roots were Indian. So we have what we call Jamaican Indian food, Chinese Jamaican Indian food, not Chinese Jamaican, Chinese Jamaican food, which tastes different to food from actually China.
One of my favorite DJs, sorry to interrupt you, he's Jamaican Chinese. His name is Black Chinese.
Yeah. I mean, I can't say I'm a fan of his, but
wait, you're not or you are?
I'm not.
Oh, come on. All right.
But no, that's the reality. So what else are we going to talk about?
I think this is important. A message to incoming students. I know you weren't a student here, but like my answer is ready in my mind, and I have to remember this is your interview.
Advice to incoming students. Be willing to expand your, I say this friend base, but I don't mean it as just your friend base. Be willing to go out and explore. There's so many options and things that you can do at UW. And I'm talking about outside of your academic world. And I think that's really important for the young BIPOC student to see the opportunities that are there and do not be boxed into what society has deemed you can do.
You can do it. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that's a great message.
So
I won't add to it because then it's going to take away from when it's my turn to answer that. We're definitely over 10 minutes. I'm not sure if there's anything we really didn't discuss that we can discuss some more. But honestly, I do see change happening. Is it at the rate that we wish it could happen? No. But we are seeing, banks, for example, I don't know if it was RBC or CIBC, but they're offering money to attract Black entrepreneurs, right? I used to go to these fintech conferences where you'd have people who are coming up with these, amazing ideas, and they're able to network with people who can pay for it. But one of the things that was talked about was how there was barely any people of color. And this was, I'd say 4 years ago. This happened back 4 years ago. There was barely any people of color that are involved. Not that people of color can't be innovators. The issue they found is when they do innovate something, again, it's that prejudice. You look at the person before you're looking at his work, right? You've already made a decision that there's no way his idea is going to work or her idea is going to work. Just because of how they look like, maybe the presentation they came, maybe the way they were dressed too, right? And so I do see those attitudes changing a little, right? But like I said, the past weekend I had and the experience I had, there's definitely more work to be done. We just have to make sure we use those opportunities as a moment to teach the person rather than ridiculing them and making them, feel smaller than they are, because that's not going to make them a better person. That's just only going to entrench them deeper in whatever beliefs they held of us. They're probably going to throw being rude and aggressive in it as well, if it already wasn't there.
I just thought of something which has nothing to do with what you're just saying, but I guess maybe it sent my brain there. Mm-hmm. Because swimming in the world, the Black population, the numbers that swim are far less. And yep. I grew up coaching Black children for 25 years.
Okay.
But there's no research done using a Black population as your base. So all of the research that we have is on white populations. And I was watching a movie the other day, and they were doing some testing for heart-related disease.
Yep.
When you think about it, in the Black population in the world, heart-related disease is very high. But on the study that was done, they had only 3% of the people they were using were Black. And I found that quite interesting.
Sorry, go ahead.
So it came back to, what would I like to do down the road? I would like to retire. No, and it's a program I want to bring in through UW, is how can we have more Black children learning to swim? Because then we will have more Black children actually swimming competitively down the road.
For sure.
So good luck to the guys editing.
Thank you, everybody. Good luck. Jacky, this was great. We can have this without the interruption of phone calls. That would be hilarious. They got everything today. Some Jamaican, some Arabic.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you guys. Good luck editing this. All the best.